The following program is a special presentation of KSTP Sports.
I'm Bruce, and welcome to this, our final edition of State Tournaments in Review for the 1980-81 school year. You know, in past programs, we've taken you from the football of November through the very busy state tournament schedule, sometimes known as March Madness. In the next 30 minutes, we'll take an extended look at the spring activities sponsored by the Minnesota State High School League, activities in which thousands of our state's young people participated in during the past school year. Call it spring fever if you like. For the most part, these activities begin to blossom about the time the snow melts here in Minnesota, and the tournament schedule concludes just before that final bell rings in the start of summer vacation. Athletically, there were a number of outstanding achievements during the spring of 1981. Our first stop will be at the State High School Golf Tournament, where again this year, Minnesota crowned a three-time state champion. Stay with us. Remarkably, it hadn't happened through the first 52 years of the Minnesota State High School Golf Tournament. Equally remarkable, it's now happened twice since May of 1980. Until this spring, only one other student, Chris Perry of Edina West, had won sophomore through senior individual titles in state golf. Perry completed his then unprecedented Triple Crown last spring. But while Chris was receiving a great deal of well-deserved publicity for becoming the state's first three-time champion, another top golfer, Jody Rosenthal of Hopkins-Eisenhower, was quietly winning her second AA crown. Her quest for championship number 3 began in early June at Majestic Oaks Golf Club near Anoka. Rosenthal opened the 36-hole AA tournament with a 2-over par round of 73 and took a one-stroke lead into the final 18 holes. With that lead, her game plan became one of consistency, shoot par golf, and force the other players to come in with subpar rounds to have any chance of winning. That strategy worked. Rosenthal methodically reeled off 8 pars on the front 9, made the turn with a 5-stroke lead, and never looked back. Jody finished the day with a 3-over par round of 74, giving her a 2-day total of 147, and yes, her third consecutive state championship. The runner-up to Rosenthal was Sheila Peterson of Malacca. Sheila finished 4 shots off the pace. There were some tense moments on day 2 of the boys' AA tournament, also held at Majestic Oaks. Shell Wheeler of Mounds View fired an even par round of 72 to lead the tournament at the halfway mark. And Wheeler clung to a slim lead through most of round 2. With 6 holes to play, however, Steve Barber of Austin began to make a charge. Barber birdied 13, then picked up another stroke at 14 to grab a share of the lead. Wheeler again took control at the par 5 16th when he rolled in this short birdie putt. Then watched Barber take bogey to fall 2 strokes off the lead. But the complexion changed again at 17, perhaps the pivotal hole of the entire tournament. Barber hooked his drive, but a pretty second shot left him with this short putt for birdie. To add to the drama, Wheeler 3-putted for bogey, and the two were all even with just 1 hole to play. Both reached the green on the par 4 18th in regulation, but once again, a 3-putt by Wheeler made the difference. Barber's birdie attempt left him with this short tap-in for par. Then, with a chance to tie, a 5-footer by Wheeler wouldn't drop. He had to settle for second as Steve Barber of Austin won the AA state championship. Tim Odegaard of Pine City and Don Larson of Madison were co-leaders after the first round of the Class A tournament at Forest Hills Golf Club in Forest Lake. Each opened with a 4-over par round of 76, but they weren't the only two in the hunt at the midpoint of that tournament. 7 others were within 3 shots of the lead with 18 holes to play. Odegaard built a slight lead on the front 9 in the second round. The self-taught junior displayed a nice touch around the green. This birdie attempt on number 9 nearly went in. He made the tap in for a 2-stroke lead with 9 holes to play. Larson, meantime, fell back a bit farther on the next few holes. But down the stretch, Bob Cavanaugh of Perham began to apply some heat. Cavanaugh had the day's best round of 76, but it was 1 stroke short of catching the leader. Tim Odegaard of Pine City finished with a 2-day total of 154 and the 1981 Class A State Golf Championship. Kelly Skalicki has been part of the state tournament scene for quite some time. The senior from Albany was the runner-up in state golf in each of the last 2 years, and more recently set a 3-game scoring record at the state high school basketball tournament. We've grown accustomed to watching her excel at athletics, but still, it was hard to believe her head and shoulders above the crowd performance at the 1981 golf tournament. After 18 holes, Skalicki had an uncatchable 13-stroke lead, a lead built on a solid opening round of 1 under par 71. As far as the individual championship was concerned, the second round was a formality. Skalicki didn't play nearly as well through the final 18 holes, but quite simply, she didn't have to. Her second total was 79, and even at that, she added 5 strokes to her lead and finished with an almost unheard-of margin of victory, a whopping 18 strokes over the runner-up, Annette Hogstow of Boston. Along with the individual winners, 4 team championships were decided in state golf, 2 of those by tiebreakers. In Class A, Redwood Falls and St. Anthony tied for the boys' title. Redwood Falls received the trophy under a tie-breaking system which eliminates the 4th player's score from the total. Their top 3 golfers finished at 487. That same tiebreaker was used to determine the girls' Class A champion. The trophy there went to Wadena by 10 strokes over Waconia. In Class AA, Steve Barber's individual title led Austin to its 3rd consecutive team championship and its 5th overall. That's a state record. Jody Rosenthal and Terry Carneal, 1st and 3rd in the individual competition, led Eisenhower Lindbergh of Hopkins to the girls' AA crown. Baseball, softball, and an unbeatable Swedish exchange student in state tennis. We'll have those stories and more right after this. This is Jane Sinelground of Austin, and in 4 years as a pitcher in high school fast-pitch softball, her winning percentage has remained exactly as it was after victory number 1, a perfect 1,000. The winning streaks for both her and her school had reached eye-opening proportions by the 1981 Girls State Softball Tournament. Sinelground had won 50 games without a loss, a streak that started in 1978. While Austin entered this year's tournament with 43 consecutive victories and a state championship in 1980. In each case, the streaks increased by 3 at the 81 state tournament. Victories over St. Cloud Apollo and Kellogg put Austin and Sinelground in the championship against Cambridge. In the title game, Sinelground was near perfect. Austin scored the only run it needed in the top of the 5th. Karen McGee opened the inning with a single, moved to second on a sacrifice, and scored on this base hit by Dina Diggins. That put Austin in front 1-0. Sinelground, meanwhile, allowed no hits through the first 6 innings. Julie Larson broke the spell with a single in the 7th, but that was all the offense for Cambridge. Austin won its 2nd consecutive title and its 46th consecutive game, 1-0. Even more impressive, Jane Sinelground finished her high school career with a record of 53 wins and no losses. An unbeatable pitcher was also the story of the Class A championship in St. Cloud. Moose Lake's Annie Adamczak, a tournament standout in 3 sports, completed a perfect season with a victory over Albany in the finals. Albany had defensive problems in the early going, committing 4 errors as Moose Lake scored 3 runs in the first and 3 more in the second. Adamczak drove in a pair of runs with that single to right. The unbeaten Lakers moved in front 3-0, and it was all over after that. Adamczak allowed just 4 hits and an unearned run in the third. For the season, in fact, she allowed no earned runs in winning 16 consecutive games. The season's final effort for this junior from Moose Lake, a 6-1 win for the Class A state championship. A rare occurrence known as a catcher's balk and a once-beaten team from St. Paul were the big stories at the 1981 state baseball tournament. The balk sent the winning run to the plate in the Class A championship at St. Cloud. Mike Waldorf's home run in the bottom of the third gave Winona Carter an early 1-0 lead over Sleepy Eye. Sleepy Eye came back to tie it in the top of the 5th when Scott Kruger scored from third on a fielder's choice. And while each team had several offensive opportunities after that, the 1-all deadlock remained till the top of the 10th. In the 10th, Sleepy Eye loaded the bases with 1 out. The suicide squeeze was on, and watch what happened. Keep an eye on the catcher from Winona Carter, Mark Wilkin. As the runner broke for the plate, Wilkin left the catcher's box and stepped behind the batter and up the third base line. He couldn't handle the pitch from Matt Shapleski, but whether he had or not, Jay Kromarzik would have scored the go-ahead run. Watch it again. Wilkin left the catcher's box before the pitch was delivered. The umpire immediately signaled a balk on the catcher, and each runner was allowed to advance 1 base. Willie Shaman followed with a 2-run single to center, and that's how it ended. Sleepy Eye over Winona Carter, 4-1 for the Class A state championship. The demise of St. Paul's Midway Stadium meant a location change for the AA state baseball tournament. But while the state qualifiers didn't travel to the city that has hosted the tournament 16 times since 1961, St. Paul was very much a part of the '81 state finals. Cretin High School of St. Paul, considered by most to be the favorite, opened this year's tournament with a victory over defending champion Coon Rapids. The Raiders went to their running game, stealing 4 bases in a 6-run first inning. Rapids scored its lone run in the first, and that was the final. Cretin a winner by a score of 6-1. The Raiders reached the AA finals with a 4-2 win over Edina East, then thoroughly dominated the championship game with Waseca. Cretin hammered out 12 hits and scoring 4 runs in the second, 2 in the third, and 5 more in the 5th. With the 10-run rule in effect, Brian Bolin retired Waseca in the top of the 5th. Bolin finished with a 1-hitter as Cretin won the AA state championship. The final, Cretin 11, Waseca nothing. Edina East, Blue Earth, Blake, and a foreign exchange student from Sweden all flexed their tennis muscles at the 53rd annual Boys State Tennis Tournament. In Class AA, the only story was Edina East, as the Hornets swept state titles in all 3 categories. A major part of their success, senior Bob Bateman, who was the runner-up in singles play at last year's tournament. This year, he didn't have to settle for second. In the finals, Bateman won a marathon first set from Darrell Ladden of Hopkins Lindbergh, 7-6, then closed out the match 6-2 for the AA singles crown. Bateman also had a large hand in the team championship for East. His victory over Dave Nelson in #1 singles accounted for the winning margin in a 3-2 decision over St. Cloud Tech. Bob Bordewick and Jeff Eklund also took part in 2 championships. They added a victory in the team finals, then downed Pete Lilleberg and Dave Pejos of Henry Sibley for the championship in AA doubles. The Class A doubles crown went to Ryan Nee and Steve Beckendorf of Blue Earth, a southern Minnesota community which has recently become a tennis power. Blue Earth won Class A team honors in 1980. Their bid to repeat, however, was derailed in a semifinal match with Blake. Blake won that one 4-1. then swept Wadena 5-love for the championship. In each match, Scott Card notched a victory in #1 singles. In the finals, Card defeated Wadena's Chris Grabian in straight sets, 6-4, 6-2. The country that brought us the world's finest tennis player, Bjorn Borg, also produced Minnesota's Class A singles champ in 1981. His name is Jakob Victorin, and during the past school year, this foreign exchange student from Sweden has been playing tennis and learning about life in rural Minnesota. The campus for that education, Morton, Minnesota, was hardly a hotbed of tennis until Jakob came to town. When he left Sweden, he was that country's 15th ranking junior tennis player. And if anyone wondered how he'd do against high school competition in this country, they soon found out. At the state tournament, Victorin won all 4 matches in straight sets. The final victim, Scott Card of Blake, 6-1, 6-1. Jakob will return to Sweden for his senior year of high school, but he won't go home empty-handed. He'll leave with a Minnesota State Championship. When we return, we'll look at Denise Bullock's single-handed bid for a team championship in state track. She's done it before. Stay with us. Denise Bullock, as she comes around that corner, is looking fine. In 1980, Denise Bullock of Mount St. Benedict made track history in Minnesota. That victory in the 200-meter dash provided the points necessary to give the Crookston School the Class A team championship. The unprecedented part of the story, Denise, then a junior, accounted for all of Mount St. Benedict's points. An incredible solo effort for the team title. This year, Denise Bullock was back, defending not only that team championship, but titles in 3 of the dash events.
I first came out St. Benedict and I wanted to get involved in the sports, so I was in basketball, and the coach asked was I coming out for track, and I said, why not? My freshman year, I didn't know I could run that fast, and I went to state my freshman year, so ever since then I liked it.
I suppose the pressures here are a little bit different from last year. Obviously now you're defending instead of going after it. Have you prepared any differently this year?
I've been working harder on my 400, and my starts have really, as you see, my starts have been pretty good today, but that's what I gotta get mainly is my starts, and I can do pretty good. I feel so this year I'm much faster because in the middle of the season I was breaking state records.
Do you think about repeating last year's performance, or do you just go out to do well? How do you approach this?
I want to win it just like I did last year, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. So I think I'll do pretty good.
Pretty good should be considered a major understatement because in 1981 at Lincoln High School in Bloomington, Denise did it again. She collected points in 4 events, including a 5th place finish in the long jump, and second by an eyelash to Paula Berendt of Rush City in the 400-meter dash. Add to that her 2 best events, and you've got the ingredients for another memorable afternoon. Denise covered 100 meters in 12 1/10 seconds. But for a wind at her back, that would have been a state record. In the 200, an event she won as both a freshman and junior, Denise overhauled Berendt down the stretch and hit the tape in 25.81 seconds. Her second gold medal at the 81 meet and 30 points for the afternoon. Once again, she accounted for all of Mount St. Benedict's points. And while Denise didn't win it outright, that was enough to tie Rochester Lords for the Class A team championship. Quite a story. A sprinter from Bloomington Kennedy, Darren Wolf, also won a pair of events at the 81 meet. Wolf was first to the tape at both the 100 and 200-meter dash events. His time in the 200, 22.14. Well, that completes another season of state tournaments and review here on Channel 5, and I'd like to close this afternoon with a special note about this program. Time allows us a glimpse at only the state champions, those students who have excelled in the various activities. Now, they've earned the trophies and accolades, but let's not forget about the many thousands of students who may not have won a state championship, but participated just the same. Along with the medal winners, it's their willingness to compete that makes these activities a productive facet of life here in Minnesota. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Bruce. Good afternoon.